Alright, now it's time to get these class abilities and feats locked in for the Pathfinder Summoner. Hello there everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den. It's me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, here to talk to you about the 1st edition Pathfinder Summoner, today going over their class abilities and their feats, and hopefully I've resolved all of my audio issues and don't have to worry about using my my little earpieces there and all of that fun jazz. I just hope that this works. Fingers crossed. So, we're going to talk about the overall meat and potatoes of the class, its abilities, and then the feats that we want to add in to supplement that. That's really going to dictate our build. But after chatting a little bit with Captain Crank in the comments of the first video for the Summoner class, I kind of found myself at a little bit of a loss and struggling to put all this together because, yeah, the Summoner really has a lot of flexibility and so many things that really come into play because of its abilities and the options available to it. It probably is, if not the, one of the more complicated classes that you could possibly be playing because you could do things so wildly different, and I actually think that the Summoner is probably one of those classes that just really comfortably fits in with and multi-classes really well, especially with other classes that have charisma as their main class stat, the stat that feeds into their various class abilities, such as, say, the sorcerer, the bard, or the paladin. All of these classes function mainly from charisma, and so does the summoner, so you could end up doing quite a lot with that. It opens up a lot of flexibility for you. But before we get into the class abilities and feats here for you today, and before I go off down another rabbit trail, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down there, hit the like button, and share the video far and wide. But now, let's start flying through this because, God, there is a lot to cover. Why do I do this to myself? So, to begin with, for your class abilities, as a summoner, you are going to start off proficient with simple weapons and light armor. Not bad, especially since that gives you an edge over several other casting classes. You can cast spells without arcane spell failure chance for wearing armor, but that's limited to just light armor. As soon as you step into medium or higher, then you're going to start taking those penalties. You get a D8 for your hit points, 2 plus your intelligence modifier for skill ranks per level, as we'd already talked about before with skills. So that is a little bit of an area where you can get tripped up, but you have so many other things that cover it. I really don't think you should be worried. Then, at first level, you gain your Eidolon. Eidolons are outsiders that are fundamentally tied to the summoner. They aren't set back to their home plane until reduced to a negative hit point total equal to their con score, and can attack creatures that are under protection spells that normally would block other summoned creatures because of their connection with the summoner. So, protection from evil or law or chaos, your summoned creature can bypass those. It takes 1 minute to summon them, so you're not going to be doing this mid-combat. This is going to be something that you have up and ready to go beforehand, but when you do, it just sticks around, and it is a powerful force on the battlefield for you. Now, the Eidolon cannot be sent back to its home plane by Dispel magic, but banishment and dismissal still work. If the summoner is asleep, unconscious, or killed, the Eidolon dissipates. The Eidolon's hit dice and stats are tied to the summoner's level, also gaining evolution points that can give different abilities and powers. Once they are spent, they are set until the summoner gains another level, giving you a great deal of flexibility and adaptability, especially in early levels where you try to figure out the combination that generally works pretty well for you, though you unlock more and more as you advance and level up, so don't be afraid to play around with things a bit. Then, also at level 1, you gain lifelink. The summoner may sacrifice hit points to prevent damage to the Eidolon on a 1-for-1 basis, and prevent the Eidolon from dissipating. The Eidolon must also be within 100 feet of you, or at 101 to 1000 feet, the Eidolon drops to 75% of its hit point total. At 1,001 to 10,000 feet, it will have 50% of its hit points. Any further, and the Eidolon will dissipate and return to its home plane. Hit points that are lost in this way do not return when the summoner closes a distance. So, if you're at 105 feet away, your Eidolon drops down to 75%, and then you get within, say, 90 feet of it, those missing 25% hit points do not come back. It stays at 75%. So, you definitely want to stick close. In most occasions, that's not going to be too huge of an issue, but it is something to be aware of. Then you also get the Summon Monster feature, which you pick up at level 1, but it also increases in its usefulness at 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th, 15th, 17th level, and 19th level. You cast Summon Monster 1 as a spell-like ability a number of times per day equal to 3 plus your Charisma modifier, but this can't be used while your Eidolon is summoned. It takes a standard action and the summoned creatures stay for 1 minute per level instead of the normal duration offered by the Summon Monster spell. At each level listed, this is replaced with the next Summon Monster spell. So at 3rd level you get Summon Monster 2, 5th level you get Summon Monster 3, so on and so forth, up till you get Gate at 19th level, which then allows you to use either Summon Monster 9 or Gate. Gate will not replace Summon Monster. You'll have both options there available to you, which just is tremendous. Absolutely incredible levels of flexibility, and the Summon Monster spells are easily one of the best series of spells in the game, because you summon multiple creatures that go onto the battlefield that you can place in flanking positions to support your any allies that have precision damage, like the Vigilante or the Rogue with their sneak attacks and the like, so that gets them extra damage dice, bonuses to hit, as well as other bodies on the battlefield for your opponents to swipe at, and they can potentially do damage themselves. Even if all they do is sit there, though, not really hitting anything, anytime your opponents attack them, if they miss or hit, that's a wasted attack, essentially, because they're not attacking the real threats, the more significant threats, but they're still threats that they'll probably have to deal with. Moving on, though, at 2nd level you get Bond Senses. You share the senses of your Eidolon as a standard action, seeing, smelling, tasting, and touching everything your Eidolon does, 1 round a level each day. Now, I see some people give this one a little bit of hate, but I really like this as not a scouting option, but especially once you get to higher levels and say your Eidolon picks up things like blind sense or other sensory abilities that you don't have, this can help you to see where targets are at that you might otherwise be unable to perceive. This gives you other options, helps you narrow things down quite a bit. So this just takes a little bit of creative thinking and some ingenuity in regards to your Eidolon's abilities and using them to supplement your own. The biggest drawback to this, though, is that it's down to 1 round a level each day, which does limit its usefulness quite a bit, but it still is helpful. I think this is much more helpful than what people think of it as. At 4th level, you gain Shield Ally. When in the Eidolon's reach, you gain a +2 shield bonus to armor class and a +2 circumstance bonus on saving throws, meaning that circumstance bonus will stack with many other sources. This doesn't work, however, if the Eidolon is grappled, helpless, paralyzed, stunned, or unconscious, which, if it is, you've got some fairly significant problems. At 6th level, you get Maker's Call. Call your Eidolon to your side per dimension door using your summoner level as the caster level. The Eidolon appears adjacent or as close as possible to you. Usable once a day at 6th level, +1 use every 4 levels after. At 8th level, you get Transposition, which works as Maker's Call, but instead you swap places with your Eidolon. You can occupy any square your Eidolon occupied if it occupies multiple squares, and your Eidolon must be in or as close as possible to where you were standing. So another handy thing for you to have access to there, not only do you have the options of bringing your Eidolon in close to help support you and grant you those bonuses from the Shield Ally ability, but with Transposition you can flat out get out of dodge and be far, far away from the danger, assuming your Eidolon was standing somewhere safe enough for you to be. Then at 10th level, you pick up Aspect. Take up to 2 evolution points from your Eidolon's pool to give to yourself. You can select any evolution available to your Eidolon that you meet the prerequisites for, except the ability Increase Evolution. Now, Aspect is interesting because I think for certain builds this can be really, really good, especially if you're doing something to build yourself into being more of a combat summoner. If you've rolled really well for your stats, so you get to roll for all your stats, you have good strength or constitution or both ideally, then you can give yourself some of these evolution abilities to help give you a greater degree of maneuverability on the battlefield, some other combat options that make you much, much more lethal, or better yet, more defensive and more maneuverable. Maneuverable. Words are hard. But, again, it just really depends on how you're building yourself in this class and if you're cross-classing into anything that really supports combat, because base summoner on its own does not have the attack bonus, the saves, or the hit points really necessary to get in and be effective in close combat. Range combat is another thing entirely, and definitely much more manageable, but again, depends on the build that you're going for. So, if you're going for a build that allows for that, then greater maneuverability will work and synergize nicely with more of a ranged build than it would close combat, but again, play around with it a little bit. Next, at 12th level, you gain Greater Shield Ally. When in reach of the Eidolon, allies receive a +2 shield bonus to AC and a +2 circumstance bonus to their saves. And the bonus increases to +4 for the summoner. Again, won't apply if the Eidolon is grappled, helpless, paralyzed, stunned, or unconscious. Something to be very much aware of. Then, at level 14, you gain Life Bond. As long as the Eidolon has 1 hit point, damage that would take the summoner past 0 hit points is transferred to the Eidolon instead, till they hit negative hit points equal to their constitution score, as per normal, which, again, fantastic. This helps to really keep you alive. So if you're in a position where you are taking a beating but your Eidolon is not, great, now you can keep yourself alive and not very much dead, as some enemies will focus on trying to make you, because killing you gets rid of the Eidolon. So better that the Eidolon takes some of that hit point damage and keeps around in the fight. And vice versa, if your Eidolon is at risk of being completely destroyed and dissipating back into the realm from whence they came. At 16th level, you pick up Merge Forms, a full round action to touch your Eidolon to merge your forms, suspending any spell effects targeting you. The durations will still expire, but the effects you don't have to feel them or suffer them while merged with your Eidolon, and rendering you untargetable for a number of rounds equal to your summoner level a day. You can still cast spells through the Eidolon, which is great. However, if your Eidolon is banished before you exit, you will automatically be shunted out of it, taking 46 points of damage, which is not bad, not great, but not that bad either, especially at level 16. However, you will take 1 round of stun, and that is kind of painful. Now, Merge Forms is cool in concept, cool in theory, but the duration is incredibly short. It doesn't last quite long enough, but it can be a great way to hide out and try to ride out certain effects if you can do so. But the thing is that any effect that's bad enough that you're better off hiding and riding it out is probably limiting you from taking full round actions. So meaning it might be difficult to use this when you really need to. And again, the duration's just not quite that long. But if you find yourself in that situation where you can use this and you have effects afflicting you that you need to try to get rid of, that you can't just somehow remove from yourself, have another player remove from you, like a restoration spell or something like that, then, this can be an option. So, kind of iffy, cool idea in theory, but it's kind of not executed the best. But at 18th level, you get to take Greater Aspect as Aspect, but then you get to take up to 6 evolution points at a rate of 2 points for you for every one taken from your Eidolon's evolution pool, which is fantastic. 6 points of evolution opens up so many great options for you. absolutely wonderful to have, and really can lean more into being more of a combat-focused kind of summoner, paired up with your Eidolon. So definitely some interesting options. Then you have Merge Forms at 20th level, which is actually a really, really cool ability. As a standard action, copy the Eidolon form, taking on its base strength, dexterity, and con scores. Your gear can be absorbed into this form, with any constant effects remaining. So if you have a Ring of Protection, that's still going to be generating the armor class bonus that it provides. You lose all of your natural attacks and racial traits except for your bonus feats, skills, and languages, and replace with abilities from evolutions. Retain all class features, lasts 1 minute per level, used in 1 minute increments. Now there is an alternate capstone ability which gives you, I believe it's another 6 evolution points on top of your Eidolon's evolution pool, which can really, really jump up the amount of abilities and the like that you can add into your Eidolon and make them just an absolute avatar of devastation, destruction, protection, whatever route you're trying to flavor it. But merge forms can be really great. There is just one little hiccup with it. You get to keep the bonus feats that you have. Okay, great. So you're a spellcasting class and you have the summon monster ability. So you can still use that ability, and you say you have the augment summoning feat. You can still use all of that when you're summoning your monster allies. Great, that's fantastic. But this is a form where you would be better off having a lot of combat feats and abilities that you may not really qualify for as a summoner. Your strength may not be high enough, your con or dexterity may not be high enough for all of the different combat feats, your attack bonus may not be quite high enough, and given that you need to split between either combat feats or casting feats and feats that help to support your Eidolon, you could end up very, very strained and overtaxed on feats very, very quickly. You could be pulled in too many different directions. So it can be worth it to either take the capstone ability and just really boost the hell out of your Eidolon, or if you're playing at higher levels, or you're starting off at 20th level for some ungodly nail-biting epic level campaign, you may want to build with a more combat-oriented summoner in mind, but that can be kind of tricky. So, you know, it's just something you're going to have to play with, talk with your DM about, but Merge Forms, I think, is a fantastic ability. It's great, it's a cool capstone ability, it's very flavorful and feels very fitting, but your Eidolon is still probably going to be better at most of this, I think. Although you're still going to do great. You're still going to do great in combat. Better in combat than you would at your base form. I almost think that the alternate capstone ability might be the better pick overall. But those are just my thoughts on it, and as I may have mentioned before, I am learning about this class. I've only ever had one player make a summoner, and that was almost a decade ago, and it was only about level 10, level 11 or so. So I didn't really... Anything I might have learned about it then is just gone out the window, and yeah, so I am playing around with this as we talk about the class and exploring different things, researching. So let me know if you think I got this wrong with Merge Forms. Now we move on though to feats, and we're going to try to blitz through these here, because this is another area where I kind of got a little lost in the sauce, because yeah, a lot of this really just depends on what it is you're trying to build for. But let's get into it. So starting off, we have Spell Focus as your human bonus feat at first level. If you're not human, you can either shift this a further on down the line and just kind of bump everything along one step there. But this gives a +1 to the save DCs for your selected school of spells, and we're going to take Conjuration. You know exactly what's coming. But the thing to note here is, while it is nice getting a boost to the save DCs, you don't have a lot of spells that offer save DCs. So bear that in mind. But then for first level, we are going to take extra evolution. Gain 1 evolution point for your Eidolon. This is easily worth a feat, and extra evolution is a feat that we can take multiple times, so it's easily worth a feat, probably worth a little bit more than just a feat in several instances. Then for third level, we're going to take Improved Initiative, gain a +4 bonus to your initiative because, well, you have spells, it's worthwhile to go as fast as possible and get either your summoned creatures out there or start directing your Eidolon to start wreaking havoc among your opponents. For 5th level, we are going to take extra evolution again because, well, this is our next opportunity to do so. Gain another evolution point for your Eidolon. Then, moving on from there, we come around to the leadership feat at 7th level. Now, this one I throw in here because I just like the idea of the summoner having this here, especially with the title card I have of making friends. Leadership, you can pick it up at 7th level. This is your first chance to do so. Your total character level plus charisma modifier to determine the level and number of followers that you can have. Now this can be modified by other factors. Special power, that's a +1. A familiar, that's a -2. You move around a lot, that's a -1. But by level 7, your score is going to be a 10, granting a 7th level cohort with class levels and 5 level 1 followers. So you're essentially getting a whole nother character sheet there, adding into everything that you're able to bring to bear, especially with you, your Eidolon, and now a 7th level cohort. That's pretty significant there. Now, you gain other bonuses like Generosity for a +1 and Renown for a +2. You can't increase your cohort level past yours. They gain XP and advance normally, but at a score of 13, you will get 10 level 1 and 1 level 2 followers. So that's a pretty significant number of bodies to throw on there. And this is where I should note that a lot of DMs just ban this feat out of hand because this really can do a lot to add into a fight. It's so many extra things to keep track of, and it can really unbalance encounters very fast in favor of the party. So either work with your DM or talk with them, see what they're willing to allow. Maybe you can take a couple of the followers with you. If you have any kind of holdings or estate, well, it's probably going to be in your interest to keep your estate secure, so maybe your cohort has to remain behind with most of the followers, but you have the option of bringing 1 or 2 of the followers along with you to help with things, help with guarding the camp, taking care of animals, taking care of some of the more tasks that are minor relative to you that you can't do. So those are some options. Those might be some ways that you can be more flexible with this, but I don't know, for this build I love the idea of the summoner taking this. Just goes with the theme, I think. Then we move on to 9th level to picking up Augment Summoning. Requires Spell Focus Conjuration, which we have. Creatures you summon get +4 to their Strength and Constitution score, which is just a huge boon to have, and it works with your class ability because it is a spell-like ability. Absolutely great to have. Then, Extra Evolution we take at a 11th level, gaining another evolutionary point. Then at 13th level, we pick up Toughness, gain +3 hit points for first level, +1 for each level after. Why? Because this expands the number of hit points that we have for that life link, that life bond with the Eidolon. So whichever way you may end up going, this gives you extra hit points to either keep you alive or keep your Eidolon in the fight. Absolutely very essential for a summoner to have. Then, by 13th level, we pick up Evolved Summon Monster. Select 1 point other than Pounce or Reach and give it to your summon, limited to the abilities of the summon. For example, creatures with a 10-foot reach can have Pull, creatures without any reach cannot. However, if you're summoning multiple creatures, only one can have the evolution. So that is a bit of a limiting factor, but it makes sense. Things could go really, really, really wrong really fast for a DM if all the summons got to have an evolution point, because again, many of the evolution abilities are worth at least a feat, in some cases maybe more. So definitely powerful. But then at 15th level, we are picking up extra evolution for another evolution point in the Eidolon's summon monster pool. And this is where we're going to cut it off here. We are going to take another extra evolution later on. The extra evolution feat on the system reference document for Pathfinder shows some different level options for picking up feats. For example, by level 20 you can pick up extra evolution again. So I'm assuming either they meant level 19 or you have to wait and hold on to your level 19 feat and wait to spend it till you hit level 20. Either way, you're not taking it, you're not going to use that feat until you hit level 19 to 20, so it's not a huge difference or huge deal. Just check with your DM which way they'd want you to go there, but yeah, extra evolution is astoundingly good, giving you those extra points, and top it off with the fact that as a half-elf, you're gaining extra points as you level up for the evolution pool, and if you take the alternate capstone ability, that's another bonus to your overall pool of evolution points, really allowing you to upgrade and advance your Eidolon in incredible ways and making them just staggeringly powerful. Definitely worthwhile to have. But of course, what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Let me know in the comments, hit those like or dislike buttons, and we'll engage in discussion down below. Suggest whatever feats you think might be better, and just bear in mind that so much of this really just depends on how exactly you're playing with and tweaking all of these different pieces. I'm talking with Captain Crank again. If you go with a small character race like a gnome, something other that's small that gives you a bonus to charisma, you can ride your Eidolon, but you'll want the mounted combat feat, and you'll have and then from there, you know, if you're going mounted combat, well, you could always look into going Cavalier, and since Cavalier has some abilities that work off of charisma, you can you get a mount as a Cavalier, but the mounts listed there don't include your Eidolon. But as a DM, if a player wanted to mix the two classes, I would not be opposed to letting them have their Eidolon as a mount and using their Cavalier abilities with it. It's just a very, very cool idea, and I definitely submit to Rule of Cool and story and everything, and does this fit the theme and backstory? So yeah, I would allow something like that. So Gnome Cavaliers cross-classed as summoners, however they balance out their levels, you know, play with it, but that opens up a lot of really interesting options, because you have an incredibly lethal mount with all of these different evolution points enhancing its abilities, especially if you go with quadruped, absolutely suitable as a mount. You work up and you go into feats to get like spirited charge. You can have an absolutely devastating charge where your weapon is dealing damage, and because you're using a weapon, you can overcome damage reduction with it, and then your Eidolon can have so many cool attacks with their evolutionary points. You can end up absolutely being devastating on a charge. I mean, just imagine a wedge formation of gnomish knights riding their Eidolons with spirited charge, lances couched and leveled and ready to go, and just plowing into a line of opponents. Absolutely devastating. So yeah, there's so many different ways you could really go with this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and thank you all for your time. You all have yourselves a good night.